No team is perfect. So as we roll into the offseason, what imperfections does your favorite team have to keep an eye on?
Cowboys likely to be over the cap by $21.4 million. Will make it a challenge just to keep their own.
There's one major issue that each of the 32 teams simply need to address between now and week 1. Here is the main cause for concern for every NFL team heading into the offseason. Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray's frustration. Murray created headlines when he unfollowed the Cardinals on social media and proceeded to delete any team-related photos from his account. ESPN's Chris Mortensen later reported that Murray is frustrated with the franchise. On the other side, Mortensen heard that Murray is seen as self-centered and immature by many within the organization. Murray likely isn't going to be traded this offseason, but it's clear that the Cardinals' front office and coaching staff have work to do in repairing the damage. He's due for a long-term contract extension, but if the relationship isn't salvaged, Murray will likely take his talents elsewhere. The Atlanta Falcons. Calvin Ridley's future. Ridley missed most of the 2021 season to step aside and focus on his mental health. Now, the Falcons have to figure out if he'll be a part of their long-term plans or not. If Ridley stays, then the Falcons can solely focus on repairing their defense. If he gets traded, for one, they better get equal value in return, which is easier said than done. And trading Ridley opens up another roster hole, further complicating the team's offseason plans. Baltimore Ravens. Fixing the D-line. The Ravens' defense struggled big time last season, and it led to the unexpected departure of DC Don Martindale. Fixing the defensive line is a top priority. Further complicating matters is the fact that Justin Houston, Brandon Williams, and Calais Campbell are all free agents. Buffalo Bills. The O-line. Pretty amazing how Josh Allen fares so well, despite playing behind that iffy O-line. We trust GM Brandon Beane to fix this, but it will not be easy. The Bills also have pressing needs at receiver and cornerback as well. They probably won't be able to bid for top-tier offensive linemen in free agency, and there are only so many polished NFL-ready linemen in the 2022 draft class. So this should be interesting. Carolina Panthers. Who replaces Sam Darnold? Cam Newton was not the solution. PJ Walker is a backup for a reason. Sam Darnold's contract makes him tough to trade or release, but the Panthers cannot possibly start him in 2022. So, what do the Panthers do? Should they reach for a QB with the number 6 pick? Do they take a chance on a veteran like Jameis Winston or Jimmy Garoppolo? Do they make a push for Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson? Honestly, lots of options. But the bottom line is that Matt Rule's future in Carolina comes down to finding a legit starting QB in 2022. Chicago Bears. Can EBERFLUS unlock Fields? Hiring former Colts defensive coordinator Matt EBERFLUS was a rather interesting call on the Bears' end. They have a young QB in Justin Fields who just endured a miserable rookie year. The trend today is to pair your new QB with a young offensive-minded head coach, which EBERFLUS is not. So that begs the question, is he the right guy for the job? Cincinnati Bengals. Protecting Joe Burrow. In a way, it's an absolute miracle that Burrow got the Bengals to within a few plays of winning the Super Bowl, even though he played behind quite literally one of the worst offensive lines ever. Cincy fans are probably tired of hearing it, but yeah, this team has to protect Burrow. Free agency, draft picks, whatever it takes. Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield and QB situation. The Browns will give Baker Mayfield a 5th year to prove himself as the franchise QB. Cleveland fans have every reason to feel uneasy about this. Mayfield hasn't been great so far. His attitude and comments about his own fans really don't help his image either. Is the top pick of the 2018 draft really suited to take this star-studded team all the way, or will 2022 be another wasted season? Dallas Cowboys. What to do at receiver? The Cowboys would love to keep Amari Cooper, but they would also love to clear cap space. Releasing the Pro Bowl wideout would free them $16 million in cap room. So what does Jerry Jones do? If the Cowboys release Cooper, do they keep Michael Gallup? If Cooper and Gallup both leave, how do you replace that production? There are some tough decisions to make in Big D. Denver Broncos. If not Rodgers, then who? Hiring Nathaniel Hackett as the new head coach can only help Denver's chances of completing a trade for Aaron Rodgers. But if the Broncos can't land A-Rod via trade, then who's the new QB? Do you reach for someone in the first round? Do you pursue another superstar like Russell Wilson? The pressure is on GM George Paton to find his guy, and quickly. Detroit Lions, the secondary. Fixing the secondary is a priority for the Lions. For starters, they have to hope that 2020 first-round pick Jeffrey Okudah can get healthy. The highly touted prospect has only played 11 games through his first 2 seasons. Should Detroit spend cap space on secondary help? Do they use the number 32 pick on a corner? However the Lions do it, rebuilding the secondary has to be right near the top of their to-do list. Green Bay Packers. Are Rodgers and Adams gone? The Packers need both if they're going to contend for a Super Bowl next season. Rodgers hasn't decided if he'll retire or seek a trade. Adams wants to be the NFL's highest paid receiver, and hey, rightfully so. Not much really to say here. Packers fans can only hope that the front office manages to bring back both future Hall of Famers. There is absolutely no shot at a championship in the short term if either of them leave. Houston Texans. Is Lovie Smith the guy? Firing David Culley made next to 0 sense. And promoting defensive coordinator Lovie Smith to replace Culley was somehow even more confusing. Smith's last head coaching stint with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, well, didn't go so well. So, like we said with the Chicago Bears, we can't help but wonder whether they made the right call going with a defensive-minded head coach rather than a young offensive guru. Indianapolis Colts. Carson Wentz. Trading or releasing Wentz may be the smart move, but that also means giving up a valuable first-round pick for practically nothing. Should the Colts really give up on Wentz now? If they do move on, then who's the next QB? They don't have enough. Houston won't trade Watson within the division. The Colts don't have a first-round pick to trade for Rodgers or Wilson, so their options are pretty limited. Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting T-Law. There are a lot of holes on this roster, but the main task is to protect Trevor Lawrence. Jacksonville should use the top selection on Evan Neal for starters, but they need to upgrade their interior O-line as well. You don't want Lawrence to take all those hits that Burrow has already taken in Cincinnati after all. The Kansas City Chiefs. Keeping MATHIEU and Brown Jr. The Chiefs' defense is far from great, but Swiss Army knife safety Tyrann Mathieu single-handedly keeps the group afloat. So, how did the cap-strapped Chiefs manage to re-sign MATHIEU and Pro Bowl offensive tackle Orlando Brown Jr.? You can't let Brown walk 1 year after giving up a king's ransom for his services. GM Brett Veach has to find a way to keep both, but both are also due for big paydays, so good luck sorting through that. Las Vegas Raiders. Deciding on Derek Carr. After getting the Raiders to the postseason, Carr certainly deserves a lucrative extension. It'd be fun to watch him in Josh McDaniels' offense. If the Raiders don't keep Carr, they better have a suitable replacement lined up. And if they do extend Carr, he is kind of injury prone and on the wrong side of 30. So they'll also have to avoid a Jared Goff or Carson Wentz-like contract situation. Los Angeles Chargers. The run defense. The Bolts' atrocious run defense basically cost them a shot at the playoffs. So how do GM Tom Telesco and company go about fixing this group? Only so many run-stopping forces are available in free agency. Georgia product Jordan Davis would be a perfect fit here, but he is just one option to consider. Los Angeles Rams. Who stays and who goes? The defending champs are facing a cap crunch. They won't be able to keep all of their key free agents like Von Miller, Odell Beckham Jr., Sony Michel, Austin Corbett, Brian Allen, Darius Williams, and Matt Gay. GM Les Snead must decide who will stay and who will go with very limited cap room. Miami Dolphins. The Stephen Ross situation. In his lawsuit filed against the NFL, former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores claimed that owner Stephen Ross offered him $100,000 for each Miami loss in 2019. Ross's goal, Flores alleged, was to get the highest draft pick possible in 2020. If Flores' accusation can be proven true, the Dolphins owner may be forced to sell the team. This is going to be a lengthy distraction for the entire organization, and it could easily prompt certain free agents to avoid Miami until the matter is resolved. Minnesota Vikings. What to do with Kirk Cousins? His stats are great, but his playoff success is lacking. One would think that new head coach Kevin O'Connell would prefer to work with Cousins. If you keep Cousins, do you extend him now or risk losing him for nothing in 2023 free agency? And if you decide to trade Cousins, who replaces him? A difficult decision either way, one that will shape the long-term direction of this franchise. New England Patriots, fixing front seven. The Pats had the number 2 scoring defense last year, but that was largely thanks to a lockdown secondary. Outside of Matt Judon and Christian Barmore, there are holes all over the front seven. Bill Belichick showed a willingness to spend big money last summer. Does he do it again this year? The Pats need more edge rushing help and better run stoppers if they're to regain their status as an elite AFC team. New Orleans Saints. Who's the QB? Taysom Hill is better off as a gadget weapon. So, do the Saints bring back Jameis Winston, who was piecing together a pretty solid year before the unfortunate ACL tear? Do they take a chance on a QB prospect like Matt Corral, Malik Willis, or Sam Howell? This team is one quality QB away from being a Super Bowl contender again. New York Giants. O-line, please. They brought in new head coach Brian Daboll to try and unlock Daniel Jones, but it simply will not happen if the G-men don't fix that horrid O-line. Lucky for them, they have 2 first-round picks this year. Gotta use at least one of them on an offensive lineman. If they don't make the right moves, Jones will never become the franchise QB New York envisioned. New York Jets, rebuilding the D. The Jets had the NFL's worst defense last season. Not ideal considering Robert Saleh was hired for his defensive work in San Fran. New York has holes to fill all over the defense. Marcus May's pending free agency complicates matters further. Do you cut ties with CJ Mosley? How should GM Joe Douglas use his first-round picks to fix this unit? Honestly, we aren't sure, but he cannot afford to mess this up. Philadelphia Eagles. How to use their 3 first-rounders. The Eagles need more receiving help, some youth on the O-line, and help all over the defense. Howie Roseman is armed with the number 15, 16, and 19 selections, so he'll definitely have some options. We'll say this though, spend wisely, Howie. These 3 picks could make or break your franchise's long-term future. Pittsburgh Steelers, finding a starting caliber QB. Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and the defense are good enough to keep the Steelers competitive. Now, it's about finding a suitable starting QB to replace the retired Ben Roethlisberger. Picking the right guy will speed up the Steelers' retooling process as they try to re-emerge as a contender. San Francisco 49ers. Is Lance ready? Moving on from the injury and turnover-prone Jimmy G is the wise call. But the 49ers mortgaged much of their future on the number 3 pick of the 2021 draft. If Trey Lance isn't ready for prime time, then the NFC runner-ups will be in a lot of trouble. This roster is stacked from top to bottom. They just need Lance to, be ready for the starting role. Seattle Seahawks, making the right decision on number 3. It's simple. If you trade Russell Wilson, you better get the necessary assets in return, and you better use them wisely. And if you keep Russell Wilson, you gotta do a better job of building around him. More pass protection and help on defense would be a start. Whatever Seattle does with Wilson, they cannot afford to make a mess of it. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who replaces Brady? This one is pretty simple. If Tampa finds a suitable replacement for the GOAT, they remain a contender in the wide-open NFC. If they don't, then it's back to mediocrity for a franchise that was plagued by it for over a decade before Brady's arrival. So, no pressure. Tennessee Titans. The O-line. Ryan Tannehill took 47 sacks last year. That just cannot happen if you're a team with championship aspirations. Taylor Lewan remains a stud, but the interior O-line needs significant upgrades. Tannehill was inconsistent last year largely because of his pass protection, or lack thereof. The Titans have to bring in at least 2 new quality starters on that line. Washington Commanders. QB wanted. Same issue as always. Who's going to be the signal caller to complement a team with a championship-level defense and a good set of offensive weapons? Taylor Heineke is a quality backup, not a starting option. Washington needs to bring in someone like Russell Wilson, or they need to hit a home run in the draft. Matt Corral or Kenny Pickett, anyone. But what's your biggest concern for your favorite NFL team heading into the offseason? And join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.